The Tai Chi Radeon 6800 XT. Everything you need, nothing you don't. So really excited about this because I got to play with the reference versions from AMD of the 6800. These have been in short supply, but it seems like the supply is lightening up a little bit. At least they had several of these, well, the 6800, not the XT, at my local Micro Center, about 4 or 5. So I'm hoping that means that the supply is lightening up. Now, in case you're not already in the know, this is the RX 6800 XT. This is the answer from AMD to NVIDIA's RTX 3080. It has ray tracing. It has 16 gigs of GDDR6, which is quite a bit more than NVIDIA. It has 2 DisplayPort 1.4 outputs, a single HDMI 2.1 VRR output, and a USB Type-C output. This is based on AMD RDNA 2. It's designed for DirectX 12 Ultimate and does have the hardware ray tracing. PCI Express 4, FreeSync, video streaming up to 8K, Fidelity FX, image sharpening, anti-lag. AMD does recommend a 750 watt power supply minimum. 850 watts gives you a little bit more margin. If you got an older power supply that's 750 watts, you might run into trouble. We've had a couple issues on the level 1 forum. Seem to be isolated incidents. You have a little bit easier time with that on Team Red than you do Team Green. The Team Green GPUs are a little bit more aggressive about instantaneous demand and instantaneous load. So in the box you get an ASRock gear coaster, a door hanger, work done, come in, on duty, do not disturb. Gives you a little quick installation guide and a sheet of Tai Chi stickers. Not bad, not a bad little bundle. Now this is a solidly 3-slot card. If you look at this design, you look at the cross section here, it is a very heavy card. A lot of copper, a lot of metal in this one. Because of the sheer size of this card, I do recommend that you have some kind of support. It does have a built-in metal reinforcement, so when you mount this to your case, it's going to help keep the card straight, it's going to help carry the weight. But that does mean that your motherboard PCIe slot is carrying a significant amount of the weight of this card. So if you schlep your system around and, from LAN parties, well, I don't think anybody's doing that in the thing, but if you move your system around a lot and carry it from place to place, you'll want to reinforce the GPU somehow. This card has 2 physical switches, which I really like. One is P-BIOS and Q-BIOS, quiet and performance. Out of the box, it's set for performance. They know. There's also another switch here for LEDs because it's got the RGB. Another place that dual BIOS could come in handy is if you're flashing things because you could mess stuff up. That's really handy for Linux and VFIO as well because not every BIOS works exactly the same way if you're doing GPU pass-through. So having a backup BIOS prevents you from bricking your card, which I always like. It's also 3 8-pin power inputs. So you've got a lot of overclocking headroom on this card. Strictly speaking, I don't think the third connection is absolutely necessary in terms of power delivery. However, we have seen several reports in the level 1 forums of people that have been trying to run their latest generation GPUs from Team Red or Team Green that have a single power cable supplying power to both connectors here. So really, this is a safety mechanism against operator error. Some people that are DIYing and building their own computer may not realize that their power supply can't really handle the full load through a single 8-pin connection or a single cable that has multiple 8-pin connections. That's pretty common on power supply designs, and some power supplies can handle it, but you get into the whole voltage drop thing, and sometimes these cards need like 600, 800 watts for just a millisecond, and that's going to dramatically increase the resistance on that connection. By having 3 connectors on here, ASRock automatically avoids that problem because just about every power supply out there doesn't actually have 3 connectors on a single set of wires. Good job, ASRock. Now, as we can see here, it has a pretty attractive Tai Chi backplate. This card is going to work, pretty well vertically as well as horizontally in terms of the bling factor. Don't really recommend vertical GPU mounting in most cases because of the cooling aspects of that. But this is a seriously chunky heatsink. I mean, like I said, 3 slots before, if you're cramming these in multiple systems, like you're building a Threadripper VFIO system or something like that, there's not going to be enough breathing room between the cards you're gonna have to do something creative to make sure that those cards get the appropriate cooling. I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heat pipes on this enormous heatsink running the length of the card. That is a lot of heatsink, and you can really feel it. It's substantial. Now, as I said, the 6800 and the 6800 XT support on Linux is phenomenal. If you haven't seen the level 1 video on getting a 6800 XT up and running on Linux, go check that out, because this card is just as easy to get up and running. We've even got a guide on the level 1 forum to get this set up and running with both Ubuntu and Fedora. And the Fedora guide is thanks to one of our community members. Good job. Thank you. Yeah, in our system here, you can really see it's got all the RGBs. ASRock's RGB sync software called Polychrome is supported here, as well as the new, ASRock's got some new partnerships like with Razer, and you can use ASRock software with Razer Sense, or just with an out-of-the-box regular ASRock motherboard for your RGB control here. It's got a nice RGB logo. The fan is, of course, RGB. You can really do a lot here with color schemes. You can just pick a color. You can do unicorn, puke, whatever you're into as far as RGB. This card definitely has you covered. So in conclusion, AMD is back. Big Navi provides a pretty reasonable gaming experience. There's more to the conversation in terms of marketplace competition and feature parity if you're trying to figure out, do I want to go Team Red or Team Green? That's a subject best suited for another video. But if you're pretty much dead set on Team Red, or you're looking for fully open Linux support, and because of that you've picked Team Red, you wouldn't go wrong with the Taichi 6800 XT. It's a little overbuilt in some regards in terms of what the 6800 XT graphics can actually deliver, but if you would have told me 6 months ago that we're going to see 4K 60 FPS plus in AAA titles with max graphics settings for this price point, I would not have believed you. So supply issues and scalping aside, assuming that those things actually finish stabilizing in the next couple of weeks, it looks like they've stabilized, or they're in the process of stabilizing at the time that I'm releasing this video. It seems like we'll be in good shape to have relatively high-end gaming. But I'm also really excited about what this means for the mid-range gaming as well, because it's looking like we've got superior 1440p performance for not a lot of money, especially compared to last generation. So kind of exciting. So the final word is good job, ASRock. I don't see anything here really to be alarmed about. Thermals overall were good, better than the reference version of the card. The fan noise was perfectly acceptable. Fan noise was maybe a little bit higher than the reference version of the card. It makes sense with the thermals, but it certainly wasn't annoying or anything like that. Now you might be wondering, what's the secret to the Taichi? Is this just tuning and heatsink? No, they bumped the clock 100 megahertz, bass and boost clock. That's the secret here. This is so bananas, it makes me want to put this thing head to head against the 6900 XT, because how much more can you squeeze out of Big Navi? I mean, really, this is crazy. In all the games that we tested, except for Cyberpunk 2077 for some reason, this 100 megahertz clock bump was realized in the numbers, and you can see it in the overall frame rate and other performance, but generally game performance, this is the best of the 6800 XTs in terms of overall performance, and that extra 100 megahertz is why. If you spot anything I missed, let me know in the comments below. Maybe we can do a follow-up video or something like that. But overall, I'm really impressed with ASRock being able to crank this thing out in relatively short order, to be as blinged out as it is, and to be, as well put together as this design is overall. They've done a pretty good job. So if you pick up one of these and you want to show off your build, come to the forums at level 1. I'm Wendell, I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.